Welcome everyone to Season 2, Episode 9 of the Mind of Design podcast. Today we are peeling back the layers of the law of choice and the pattern of pursuit. We're diving deep, not into the ocean, but into the world around us, filled with the endless patterns and, of course, the choices. I'm here to guide you through this exploration, aiming to really just decode the essence of decision-making in both design and in life. So I hope you're excited as much as I am to be on here with you. It is always a joy, and I consider it one of my great privileges in life, because when you really step back and think about how many privileges we really have as American citizens, I mean, to be able to get on a podcast and to be able to share your thoughts and to be able to communicate those thoughts to a potential audience of over, 350 million people, that's quite remarkable. I mean, I know we focus on stats, and I know we focus on all of the algorithms and how many people can we meet and where is our Google Analytics and all of this stuff that is technical, and it is needed, sure, to reach the audience that we're looking to reach. But when you have a message so good, when you have an enriching soil that is easy for people to plant their dreams into and begin to produce something out of them that they didn't even know they could produce, then those people would come to you. I believe it was Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said this. And if you don't know the man, you should look him up. Very influential person. He inspired the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He inspired him greatly. A lot of his messages and stuff, you'll hear sort of the echo of this individual. And Ralph Waldo Emerson said this. He said, "To be great is to be misunderstood." So if you're going to be great in life, which I believe anybody that's on this podcast, you're looking to achieve greatness. You're looking to achieve the bountiful blessings of being someone that is sought after. And to do that is to really achieve the success and the level of influence that most people would never understand you in the process. So don't worry about people that are not understanding you quite along the way. And we've affectionately called them haters, but whatever that you want to give them a label, they're always going to be there. So just expect it and keep going, because what you see, what you rather envision, is more important than what you see. Because what you see with your eyes is limited, but what you can see with your vision is unlimited. What do I mean by that? So vision is simply the mirror of the mind. It sees what the eyes cannot physically see, because the eyes can tell lies. You've heard that sometimes maybe said. It kind of rhymes there, and it's interesting. But eyes can really tell lies. But the vision can tell everything about your life. It will reveal the greatest pictures that are on the inside. And so when I say all this to say, when you have something so great, people, and this is what I was going to emphasize, the quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said this. He said, if a man can preach a better sermon, if a man can make a better mousetrap, whichever, I'm probably butchering it, but he said this. He said, the world, he said, so if a man can do something better than the next person, if a man can do something so great, people, even if the man makes his house in the thick of the woods, you can imagine the brush, the debris, I mean, there's no path really to get there. He says that they will make a beaten path. That means there'll be so many footsteps trampling all of the weeds and all of the bushes and all of the branches and things down to get to where you are. So there I say, when you worry about analytics, when you worry about, or maybe not necessarily worry, but when you concern and you focus on the, how do I get more followers? How do I get more listeners? You are looking at the wrong thing, because people are not an algorithm. People are simply themselves. And when they hear you, when you have something so good that cannot be resisted, people will be your greatest evangelists to go out and evangelize the world, to let others know that you exist, to let others know that you are someone to listen to in this particular space. And I'm not saying don't go and do analytics, don't go and figure out the algorithm and all that. I'm not saying don't do that. But I'm saying when you develop yourself, because how did they do it thousands of years ago? I mean, even let's not even go thousands. Let's say 100 years ago. Let's keep it as close to civilization as we are now. 50 years ago. How did they do it? Computers, I mean, 50 years ago they did exist, but they weren't developed. I mean, they weren't looking at algorithms at that point. They were still using telephones. They were still, I mean, there was still a lot of airmail. I mean, there was so much going on in that time. That was the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, people were doing things that they've done for the past 150 years. So why would they change and why would they focus on things? But yet people were known in that time period through newspapers, through different ways. So all I'm saying is there are different ways to look at life. And that's really what the highlight of this entire month is going to be about. So that was a long introduction to really grasp your attention, pull you into focus, and bring you in to what we're getting into. So again, this is the law of choice and the pattern of pursuit. That's what this entire month is going to be about, the month of March. Thank you for being patient and waiting for us to come to you with the title. I want to build that pandemonium. I want to really build that anticipation. So I don't really want to give you the titles beforehand, because I want you to be here and I want you to be present. So as we guide through this terrain, I want to really look with you. But before we jump in to this, we want to stay and get connected with you. If we are already connected, awesome, but we want to get connected as well. So those of you that haven't known about us yet, you haven't really checked us out, check us out on Facebook, the Mind of Design podcast page. For ongoing discussions and insights. We are building that thing out, so get yourself on there and subscribe, connect with us there. We have different ways we can connect, and don't miss out on our brand new Facebook group. Again, this is it's a closed group, an exclusive group at that, for designers. So if you are a designer, I don't care what it is that you do. If you make t-shirts, if you build the world through architecture, I want you to connect with us there. We want your mind there. Why? Because your mind, what you've built in your career, is so valuable, and the world needs it. So join our Facebook page. Again, that is a closed group. You can connect with us there. You can send an inquiry to be a part of that. It's called Designers Collective, and this is right there on Facebook. You can go to groups on the Facebook section of the groups, and then you can type in Designers, DESIGNERS apostrophe, and then Collective, COLLECTIVE. We want to make sure that you can be there, so connect with us there. It's going to be a great time. And so here we are, the World Changers. This space is really going to deal with it's a space where creativity meets transformation, and where we come together for collaborative projects and expert insights, and to shape the future. So the entire mission of this group is to really engage with world changers. Those of you that are really looking to make an impact that cannot be erased in the world, we want you there. So if you got something to share, reach out to us and connect with us. Also, feedback at themindofdesign.com. And without further ado, we're going to dive into this here today. And we're talking about this title here, that patterns are everywhere. We're navigating the maze of choices. Navigating the maze of choices. How can we do this? How can we really influence and impact our world? So many choices, yet very few decisions have been made in most cases, because we have something I affectionately have called the scroll hole, and everybody knows what this is. If you are a Gen Z, or if you are somebody that is a is on TikTok, a tech person, you understand that if you're on there, you understand that a scroll hole is simply you just keep on scrolling, watching videos, reading posts, checking things out. It's a consuming process, and it is very much involved in the psychological planting, rather, of the mind. The people that are behind this are scientifically engaging with your brain and causing things to come at you. And we understand this, but yet all of us have fallen rather, sort of victim to this attack, if you will, of the mind. It's really consumes the mind to be able to get on there and just flick through because you're just watching videos that you enjoy. And so Steve Jobs said something. He had this idea. He said design is not just what it looks like, it's what it feels like. Design is how it works. Design is how it works. This thought is our starting point today, illuminating how patterns are stitching into the fabric of our lives and the pivotal role choices play within these patterns. Patterns are so interesting because patterns follow choices. I want you to hear me now. Patterns follow choices. Patterns are the direct derivative of a choice that was made long before. See, patterns, you could see a pattern. Oh, I see a pattern in this person's behavior. You've heard people say that. The reason there is even a pattern there is because there's a habit that was formed through a choice that was made. But here I'm not going to get too deep into it. But from the rhythms of nature to the architecture of our cities and the digital landscapes we navigate, patterns are the backbone of our world. Everything about them scream this revelation and sort of crescendo of constant evolving, constant developing, constant building, and it all comes back down to a symphony of efficiency, a symphony of operation. It's very interesting. So entering the law of choice, imagine standing at a crossroads of infinite patterns. I want you to put yourself there now. Put yourself in that moment. Put yourself in that space. Imagine standing, again, at the crossroads of infinite patterns, even with its own set of choices. It's a powerful place to be. But it begs the question. Get this now. It begs this question. What's the question? From the rhythms... The question is this: how do we navigate these choices? Not only meet our needs, but also guide us toward the future of the future that we dream of. How do we pull this in? How do we draw this in? How do we navigate these choices to not only meet our needs, but also guide us toward the futures we dream of? How do we do that? That's the question that is echoing in the chambers of our minds. And we need to understand this here because it's ridiculously important. So many people miss this one truth, and then their life begins to spiral into this sort of crazy situation after situation, and they start blaming things, blaming people, and saying, well, my life isn't working out, or it's not going the way I planned, and on and on and on. They start getting annoyed and what have you. But see, life is not a matter of your just being there. It's a matter of investing. It's a matter of choices. It's a matter of doing things. It all comes back down to the choices that we make. Sheena Iyengar said this. She said in her eye-opening TED Talk on the art of choosing, makes a compelling point. Choice can no longer be ignored. It's a powerful tool we have to shape our lives. Her dive into the impact of choice highlights just how much our decisions can influence not just our personal paths, but the broader design landscapes. Absolutely true about everything. But see, choices, I'll take it a step further to what she said. See, choices are interesting because choices you can back out of. You have a choice to do this, you have a choice to do that. Decisions are more final because decisions follow the choices. Now, you might be saying, well, aren't they the same? Well, no, they're two different words for a reason. To decide on something is a definitive ending. It's like, this is what I'm decided. But to choose is to loosely look at a thing and say, well, I got other choices. It's like you're not concrete in your convictions of what you want. So let's explore the dance between patterns and choices a bit further. Because patterns aren't just about visuals. They're about the rhythms and routines in our behavior, our psyche, and the society that guide our every decision. Think about this. Society is guiding your every decision. So how we interact with these patterns can significantly shape our projects, our businesses, and yes, even our personal lives. It was Barry Schwartz that said this. He said, he touches on something interesting in the paradox of choice, where he talks about how reducing choices can actually reduce anxiety for people. Have you ever thought about that? All of the different notifications you get on your phone, when you're able to silence those notifications, don't you feel automatically at ease? Why? Because there's nothing beckoning the call of your attention. So he said this, it's a thought worth considering in our own designs. How can simplifying choices improve the experience of our users? Absolutely true. I mean, everything that I've done in business and in life, it's always come down to I don't give the clients too many things to choose from. Why? Because more choices equals more problems, and more problems equals more time spent on a thing without finally coming to a definitive choice or some kind of decision being made, because they have too much to look at. They're deciding, well, what about this and what about that? But it would look better with this. And listen, you can only pick one. So when it comes down to just picking one, it's easier to pick from a select group rather than an entire plethora of different palette choices and patterns and all of this stuff. I mean, there's too much. Too much is too much at the end of the day. And so how we use these insights, they start by really spotting the patterns that resonate most with your audience. Then it's about making conscious choices, whether to go with the flow or challenge the status quo. Or even you can carve out a new path. This is where true innovation in design begins. This is the framework for design, really. And I also have here the Apple Inc. Under Steve Jobs is a prime example. Their focus on simplicity and intuitive design has set a standard in the industry, providing how powerful these choices can be in shaping user expectations. The simplicity of the Apple product, whether you are an Apple person or an Android person, it makes no difference. I'm an Apple person through and through. Why? Because I like simplicity. Well, I could hear all of the Android people and all of the Windows people saying, well, but you're limited, you're restricted, you have to pay for things. You're right, there are certain limitations, there are certain parameters and restrictions, but I like the seamlessness. I like the non-thinking aspect of Apple because they have thought a lot about what I think about. Like I need cloud storage, like I need services, I need things that are at my fingertips. I need to be able to use things to do certain things in my business, certain tools, and so they've thought about those things for me. So I pay in a little bit extra to have those extra pieces added so that I can make my life easier. I'd rather pay an extra $1,000 for something that's going to make me $100,000 rather than me go spend my time that's worth more than that $1,000 in the hours that I would spend searching for it, having somebody do it for me. Why? Because I cannot get time back. Time is the greatest commodity of life. You run out of time, you run out of life, there's nothing else to do. As soon as you are as soon as the lights go out, as soon as the curtain closes on your life, there's nothing left. So why are we so focused on, well, how can I do this and how can I do that? And, well, I can go over here and I can take care of this. I've met people like this. And I used to be one of those people, to be fair. I used to be one of those people that focuses on so many stupid things. It's like, well, I can do it. I can do it this way, or I can do it that way. Well, that's fine. You probably can do it that way, or you probably can do it better, or you probably can do it maybe a little bit faster. But is it worth your time? And so those questions really started to come to me over the past few years because of my mentor, because of the people that invest in me. Why? Because I understand differently how life operates. I understand that it's not about the I can do it better or I don't want to pay. See, listen, the whole I don't want to pay thing is an interesting concept, and that's usually rooted in people that don't understand the value of money and the value of time. Because the rich will pay for everything. Why? Because their time is significantly more valuable than any amount of money that they could ever spend. Because, see, life doesn't matter how long, doesn't matter how short, it all comes down to how valuable, how invested, how much of it did you live well. Most people can leave this world with regrets. But see, the key to not leaving this world with regrets is to live a regret-free life. In other words, go after those things, build those dreams, establish those things that you see in your mind, that you desire to have in your life. Could begin to work on those things, begin to actually take steps, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether or not you thought about it. It matters whether or not you implemented or you took action upon it. Because, see, people are always going to say the negative things about you, and they'll always say, well, it can't be done, and it was Nelson Mandela, he said, it's always impossible until it's done. I love that statement. Why? Because it truly is. It's always impossible until it's actually done. Then once it's done, everybody that ever said a negative thing about you comes around you and says and rallies around you as if they've always been with you that entire time. But I want to key in to you to know that if you have a spouse, if you have kids, if you have people, take note of them. Because the ones that build with you when there's nothing are the ones that you want to make sure that you take care of in the end, because they're going to be with you when there's everything. And see, that's the greatest challenge that the world faces. And see, I see this a lot, especially in celebrity lifestyles. You see it even with Jeff Bezos. I mean, he's dealing with this a lot. He got divorced, he got married, got divorced, got married, got divorced. I don't know how many times he's been married again, but you see, the problem he's having is trust. Why? Because he has a lot of money. So are you with me because of money, or are you with me because I am me? And see, that's the key there. And so when you have people that can build with you in the beginning, when you have nothing, those are the people that you ought to connect with and stay and be really a blessing to them and be a part of their life. Make sure that you invest into them. Make sure that you create the space that they're looking to have in their life. Build their dreams. Help them establish themselves. And make sure that you appreciate them. Show that appreciation, because they were with you when you had nothing. And it's different when they're with you when you have it all, or you say, or as the industry says, you have it all, because people automatically equate money with having it all. I love there was an interview from Bob Marley. I mean, there's many interviews that were made with Bob Marley, but one of them was interesting, and he said, are you rich? Are you wealthy? The person that was interviewing him. And, you know, Bob is a very, very real person. He just looked at him. He said, what do you mean? What do you mean by wealthy? He's like, do you have a lot of things? You have a house? You have this? You have that? He's like, things? He's like, what does that have to do with anything? Does that make somebody wealthy? Does that make somebody rich? Having things? He said, having life is wealth. Having my health is wealth. And you can look at the interview, go back and look, but it was very powerful, because you consider these things. We're trained like Pavlov's dogs in this society to think that having the money, having the houses, having the people, having the cars, all of the material things that we think are going to bring pleasure, when we have them, they really don't, because the ones that we desire to have, to spend time with, to enjoy the pleasures of these things, might not be there. Why? Because we were so consumed in trying to get those things. So what I'm saying is, don't get so consumed in trying to get things that you miss the relationships that you have that are truly more valuable than anything. And so all that to say, I mean, you might be wondering, well, what does that have to do with the topic today? Well, it brings us all back to this focus here of we are doing something different in the Mind of Design podcast. We are establishing things from a different lens of perspective, because before there's ever design, there's the designer. And before there's ever the designer, there is the mind. The mind is where the designer is made. The mind is where the designs are established. So as we wrap up today's episode, let's remember that the world around us is a rich tapestry of patterns. And our choices are the brushstrokes navigating the landscapes required, navigating navigating this landscape requires us not to just have awareness, but to have the courage to make bold decisions. So be sure you know what you're doing. Be sure you know what you're building. Be sure you know what you're creating. Be sure you know who you're doing it with, why you're doing it. Those are the questions that need to be answered. And if they are not answered, it can be dangerous. It can be a slippery slope. So I want you to head over to our Facebook group, Designers Collective, and check us out there. Again, I'm not going to harp on that too much, but I want to introduce you as it is the month of March. We were launching that yesterday, so that's now up and running. It's called Designers Collective World Changers. You want to be connected there and share how you navigate the world of choices in your work. And let's keep the conversation going and build a community of designers who dare to make a difference. So, without further ado, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Mind of Design podcast. And next week, we'll tackle the psychology behind our design preferences and how understanding this can elevate our work. Until then, stay curious and stay inspired. Thank you again. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.